The crypto market is starting to bounce back, and this is a very good sign of what's to come for a lot of altcoins that are still ranging on the lows. Now, we do need to be cautious because still tomorrow is a very big update and it could impact the market. I am leaning towards it being priced in, but the Supreme Court will be voting on tariffs tomorrow. So we need to be very cautious, especially as we are pumping right into it. I will be making a video later regarding this, but I'm hopeful that this does continue. I have been watching this on like the weekly and even on the 3-day really kind of form. So far, we have been in a very strong uptrend. We still need to break a few key levels, but so far things are looking pretty good. Now, with HBAR, the number one thing that I have been following since going all the way back to the middle of December is the structure that we have been forming, which is a very bullish structure because we are in a higher low, higher high territory, especially on the recent jump in value. Now, again, we did hit a wall right around roughly like 13 cents or so. And that's basically us trying to flip the key lows. We want to flip this level to get back into a major area of support that we could now flip into support again, build a floor, and then continue higher. But right now, I am watching for us to maintain this 11.5 cent zone for us to be bottomed. RSI is still in a strong uptrend, which is very good to see. If we are zooming out a little bit on the weekly and removing everything off of the chart real quick, just to kind of show you guys where we are at currently on this chart. You know, like I said, we have a lot more work to do because on the weekly, what we mainly want to do is flip this roughly like 12.5 cent zone, get a nice weekly close over that. That way we can see continuation to the next key area of interest, which would be up here around roughly 16.5 cents. So I'm watching for this to play out. RSI has been, in my opinion, telling us that HBAR has been bottom for a bit of time here. And that's because we recently retested significant lows going all the way back. We're going all the way back to roughly the bear market lows. So, you know, most of these altcoin charts have been extremely oversold. So now they are starting to show a little bit of a sign of life. But we just need to be very cautious. The good news, though, on the weekly is that HBAR basically hit a fair value gap area going all the way back to November, and we completely filled this. So I'm hopeful that this is going to play out where we do start to have a much larger move on this chart to retest the highs going back to July, which would be around like roughly 30 cents, and then finally break over the all-time highs going all the way back here to 2021, which would be above 50 cents. It would be nearly 60 cents on this chart. I know that on some exchanges, HBAR did hit 60 cents, but the high here that we have is 57 cents. But I do think that it is, you know, something that is going to happen this year. I think that HBAR will hit $1 this year, and I think that that's pretty conservative. Now, the reason for that is because of how bullish Hedera has been. I mean, I have been following things within the Hedera community for a very long time, as you guys are aware. And recently, we did start to see HBAR trending yet again back in the beginning of the month. This was because there was a lot of posts regarding HBAR. There was also a lot of updates regarding HBAR as well. One of the major ones that we did notice was, of course, the big update from a few players, actually. It was Altcoin Daily, and then we also started to see other larger accounts follow through with HBAR content, which we'll talk about here in a moment, but that definitely did help HBAR to trend. But we also started to see more posts like this, where we did see dev activity growing for Hedera, also allowing for more engagement and a lot more attention on Hedera. And I did say here that HBAR silently taking over the top dev activity spot. Building has been happening behind the scenes for months now. I'm excited to see what's been cooking. And yeah, if you didn't know, Hedera did flip all of the top chains on this list to become the #1 chain by RWA dev activity. And that means that Hedera flipped Chainlink, Avalanche, Stellar, so many large networks. Crazy to see, but this is why we have been following dev activity on Hedera. Hedera has been absolutely killing the game for a very long time in the sense of building, because building has been non-stop on Hedera for well over now. I would argue it's been about like 3 years, almost 4 years now. But on top of that, like I said, you know, there's been a lot of engagement from very large accounts. like for example, Lucky. I mean, this is a very large account, 1.9 million followers, over 120,000 views, saying HBAR seems obvious for a new wave in my opinion. Yeah, we were in a major downtrend. We hit a demand zone, and now we're looking for a much larger breakdown. Now, again, this TA is really not that in depth. I would argue just looking at this setup here, HBAR has been in a very strong downtrend. Usually when we see a downtrend, like a massive wipeout event, for example, back here, we did see the same thing. Everyone starts to get bearish around this level. That's when we start to see the reversal happen. And then we start to see everyone FOMO in because they're like, all right, well, I was sidelined. I was very bearish. I need to get, back in because I need to ride this. And again, that's what really supports the move to the upside on top of just, more buy-in pressure. But typically downtrends do lead to a breakout, which is why I'm watching HBAR right now over here, because if this is going to be the breakout, maybe we have one more leg down. If that's the case, right, it would be a complete fill of this fair value gap, just sub 10 cents, around like 9.5 cents. Then we would have a big breakout from that area where we do retest the prior high. The highs going all the way back to, January of 2025. And then we start to retest the all-time highs going back to 2021. But I do think that, yeah, a new wave on Hedera is starting. But also, Altcoin Daily has been posting about HBAR constantly now, which I find very funny because for the longest time, we did see HBAR get completely avoided by these large accounts. And now we're starting to see HBAR included in almost all of their videos. It's almost like they found the new shiny object in the space to put a spotlight on. But with all of this, this is not even the biggest selling point, in my opinion, for Hedera. We have been putting a spotlight on this at Web3 Alert. For you guys that don't know, yes, I do run the Web3 Alert with Tokenizer. We just recently put out a post regarding all of the central bank ties to Hedera. Hedera has been building out the trust layer for this new system for a very long time, and I think that almost everyone that's ignoring this is missing a big point that Hedera is making, which is, yeah, we do need a trust layer for this new system and for tokenized assets. And the fact that Hedera has these strong ties, it goes without saying that, yes, this is a very big deal. It shows you what level Hedera is operating at. But if we look here, these are just some of the core players that they are working with. Australia, the United Kingdom, Sweden, the United States, Singapore, Ghana. I mean, guys, these are major players that, we have major projects within these, like Project Acacia with Australia. This was a big one. We talked about it. We broke it down. But then you also have a lot of these other DLT innovation challenges. You have CBDC tests with Sweden. You also have FedNow via Drop. Also, the United States connections go all the way back to like May of 2021 with MTech. That's when we started to see them develop Project New Dawn. You also have Navati with AUDC. On top of that, you also have, MTech as infrastructure for Ghana. I mean, guys, the connections here to a lot of these central banks is very significant, but it doesn't stop there. Right? I also made a post on my X account regarding all of the tokenization expansions because, again, HBAR is becoming a crucial piece of the new financial rails, and 2025 was the year Hedera made that vision clear. We have Tokeny with Hedera. This was a big one. This is all institutional tokenization platforms and initiatives built on compliance. Onera with Archix, another major push for institutional tokenized assets. Swarm, again, this is tokenized stocks in a compliant way. Then we also look at Archix, which is a powerhouse around tokenization. This is with major money market funds. On top of that, you also have tokenized Canary HBAR ETF. This is a regulated HBAR ETF, the first one that is now tokenized and settled on Hedera. Then you also have Steg X with Zonix. This is, again, institutional tokenization. All of these major moves that Hedera has been making in 2025 has all been focused on institutional adoption, institutional moves, because that's the next phase. And Hedera has been working with these types of names for a very long time. Now, we think about what Hedera recently posted. This goes back to the end of December. This was December 29th. This is with Lehman Baird. If governance isn't trusted, nothing built on top of it matters. Hedera's transparent, accountable governance is foundational to infrastructure that the world can depend on. Check it out.
You need a network that's fast, fair, secure. This is very, very important. But you even more need one that is well governed. You have got to be able to trust the governance. And there is a natural tendency for projects to end up saying, oh, everybody can help run our project. And it ends up being a handful of people, and you don't know who they are. And they're sort of self-appointed, and it's a few people in smoke-filled rooms making the decisions. It's a few developers or a few pool owners or some mining or some staking pool owners or hashing pool owners. And you end up with a few people with unlimited control over the system. You don't know who they are or how they're making their decisions. This is not the way to do it. This isn't how ICANN and INIA, the ones you were just talking about, work with the DNS. This is not how you run something that everyone on the planet is going to depend on. What you need is transparent governance. You need to make sure that there are truly independent entities that are governing it, and you know who they are, and they have a reputation that they care about, and you see the minutes of their meetings, and you know what's going on. And so what is it that the world really needs? They need something that is fast, fair, and secure. Absolutely, this is what they need. But they also need something that is well governed so that they can trust it. This is the key to providing the Web3 world that really started this year and is just continuing to grow in the future.
So yeah, I mean, listen, when we think about what's really happening here, Hedera has been building the trust layer since the beginning. We've talked about it going all the way back to 2021, and we are still talking about it today because, again, there's almost nothing like Hedera out there in this space currently. We got to remember that Hedera is not blockchain technology. It's hashgraph technology, unlimited scalability, extremely secure through ABFT. All of these things matter. Hedera really is building out that trust layer. This is why I said many times over that this is that infrastructure that these large scale major players can, rely on. That's why we go all the way back to October 1st, where we did hear from Gregory L. Bell on tokenization. Hedera can support large scale financial infrastructure, and its governance is what sets it apart. Then we go back to October 29th. The RWA tokenization market has hit 24 billion plus this year. To scale even more, it needs infrastructure that's secure, scalable, and trusted. That's where Hedera comes in, the trust layer powering transparent, efficient tokenization. Yes, the trust layer. We even go back to December 18th. Gregory L. Bell confirmed that Q4 enterprise blockchain is becoming financial infrastructure. Great year-end conversation on token relations with Canary Funds and Red Swan Digital. 2026 is the year institutional capital moves on-chain, ETFs, tokenization, AI, and more. But yes, enterprise blockchain is becoming financial infrastructure. Hedera is becoming financial infrastructure. And that's where we go over here to December 22nd, Hedera in 2025, building the trust layer. Because this is where we start to see the big picture. This is where all of the work put into these networks over the last couple years, this is where all of that matters. We are starting to see the shift. Tokenization is only accelerating more. Stablecoin initiatives and adoption is only accelerating more. The need for networks that have that unlimited scalability, that have that technology there to ensure that trust, security, scalability, the cost per transaction, all of that stuff, all of the efficiencies that we've talked about for years, they all become crucial going into this year and beyond, because these players are not bringing small scale with them. They are bringing the largest amounts of value and volume to these networks. We are essentially in the last inning where the only thing that's in front of us that really is the next key is regulations. Once that's in place, networks like Hedera go vertical. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.